Okay, I'd like to talk to you about some good weapons for hand-to-hand combat. If you're light infantry, this is the one I would go with. Something I'd put on my LBE, about here, and I could pull out if I was toe-to-toe with someone, and I could like stab down, pull out real fast, and start stabbing and slashing down at my opponent. Now, if I mean, if I wasn't going that far, if I didn't have to march, if I only had to march about 8 miles, I wouldn't mind having one of these as a backup melee weapon. But when you're carrying 80 pounds of equipment plus ammo, this weighs over a pound. That's once you've hit about 15 miles, you start to get pretty tired, and every ounce counts at that point. So for me, I personally wouldn't want to carry this as a light infantryman, but if I'm driving around in a truck or a vehicle, that's another story. I wouldn't mind having one of these, and I wouldn't even mind having, one of these, the old Bowie knife. This, it's interesting because the Bowie knife, it's legal as a melee weapon. There's some other weapons that are like the three-sided blades that once you stab someone, they won't close and you just bleed to death. And, blades that twist and stuff like that, which are also, they're illegal according to the rules of war. But this Bowie knife is really pretty much as lethal as those are, but it's completely legal. And I'd rather at least adhere to the letter of the law. On that, some other weapons, if you're a driver, one of the weapons I'd like to keep, for if we had to go hand-to-hand combat would be actually the old hatchets, like the American GIs used in Vietnam. If you ever saw the movie not Braveheart, but Last of the Mohicans, and if you remember the movie The Patriot starring Mel Gibson, you saw hatchets being used in close quarter combat, and they were extremely effective in a close quarter fight. Even a little guy with a hatchet can kill a big guy in a second, using that weapon. They're very powerful close quarter weapons, and they're not easy to block or defend against either. So, a lot of people, would probably disagree with me on this, but I would even like to keep, some samurai, a couple samurai swords in the back of the vehicle if we had to go close quarter combat. Now, in World War II, the Japanese, most of the armies of the world had pretty much phased out swords except for ceremonial purposes. But the Japanese still had the samurai sword, plus they had a strong tradition of training in the samurai swords. Even a lot of young schoolgirls knew how to yield a samurai sword. And there was a case in Iwo Jima where it went hand-to-hand combat, and a Japanese officer pulled out a samurai sword and killed 20 American Marines before they finally got him. And this was by himself with a samurai sword. So they, were a very deadly weapon. And but as far as close quarter weapons go, I'd also like to have a couple of the old style like trench clubs around, for close quarter combat. Those were very effective in World War I. Another good weapon to have is actually close quarter combat, and you probably have, is a shovel. Now for close quarter combats, I like the old shovels that had a solid wooden handle that weren't foldable. Those things were they were a lot less likely to break, and they were a lot more solidly designed, and they psychologically, they just looked scary. Plus soldiers would sometimes sharpen the edges of them, so when they hit, they would cut as they hit your opponent. But even without the edges sharpened, it's still, a shovel in your hand swinging around. One of those e-tools, particularly with a wooden handle like that, is a very powerful weapon. Plus, it's got that flat blade on it, so you can kind of use that as a shield as someone's coming in with you with like a knife or something like that, or a bayonet. So that's my thought on close quarter weapons that would be good for infantry, men and other soldiers to have. Let me know what you think, and please feel free to hit a like and the subscribe button. Thank you.